swap it over, haven't I? Well, hello there. Welcome to this impromptu live, we shall call it. I was going to do some more of our digital work. We're going to have to put that off until probably early next week. One of our members on the Junk Journal group, Miss Paintalot's Junk Journal group on Facebook, had a problem with some of the signatures. She'd used an existing book and she'd sewn the signatures into it, and it had sort of pulled away on the spine of the book. So we're just going to have a quick look at taking the insides out of a book and what we have to do with that spine once we've done that. If you're going to use an existing book and use the existing spine, obviously you need to work out how thick your signatures are going to be, because we have two books here. As you can see, they are both the same size, what's called a royal size in the UK, and that is normally about 9.5 top to bottom and 6.25 wide, and they are both the same because that's the standard size that they make books. It must be to do with how you hold it and read it, but as you can see, they vary greatly in the thickness. The one on my right is 2 inches and the other one is 1 inch. So once you've got your signatures together, you obviously need to work out what size book you need to fit them in. If you only got a few signatures and you put it in that one, it'll look a bit silly because there'll all be lots of gaps where the signatures are sewn in either side. Obviously, if you use lots of signatures and put in that one, it'll be spayed out because they won't fit. So that's something to bear in mind. I think we'll probably, to make it easier for C, she'll gut the larger of the 2-inch thick book, and we'll put that one to one side for now. We may come back to it. The makeup of the hardback books is you get the two covers, the spine, and then all the signatures. And as you can see, there's a gap usually at the back where the spine isn't attached to the pages. They make up all the signatures. You can probably just about see that there's hundreds of signatures in there, and they generally attach something to that to keep them all. It's glued on, and it's normally some sort of fabricy type thing. But we need to remove all of that, and once you do that, the book becomes very floppy. So that's the thing we need to rectify, because if you try and sew into that, it's not strong enough to hold the weight of the signatures that we're going to put in. So the first thing we need to do is to remove all these pages. And to do that, if you get your finger into the gap there and pull it right on the very edge of the paper there, you can see it's just the one piece of paper. And that's what gives these books the rigidity, is the fact that all these centre signatures are fastened usually with quite thick paper to the cover boards, and that's what gives it its rigidity. Once we cut that away, you'll see that it'll become much floppier. Now I'm going to use take my glasses off for this. I'm going to use a scalpel. That's because I have one and I'm quite comfortable using it. Another way of cutting it safely is you can get, I think they're used for wrapping paper, and it's a small, that sort of shaped item, and it has a hidden blade inside the slot. It's obviously much smaller than that, and you can use that to put down the side of there, and it'll not be nice and safe to use, and you've got no danger of damaging the spine. Because the thing you have to be careful of is not cutting into that spine, because that's the bit we want to save. If you're going to cut into anything, cut into the bulk of the paper of the book. So I'm just going to start by removing that. I'm just going to start at the very top. Hopefully you can see that. I'm just going to use a scalpel just to cut down there. Now, as you can probably hear, that is quite thick paper, because they use a very sturdy paper to attach the covers to the actual signatures, because that's what, as I said before, gives it its rigidity. So I'm going to just slice down there, taking care not to cut into the spine, or me. Here we go. That's it, it's just about coming away now. There we go. There we go, that's the one side off. Now you can see now that that's got some brown paper, and if we were to peel that back, you can also see that it's got some sort of webbing tape. And they use all that to hold all the papers together, because those signatures are effectively glued in onto that back. You can see the browny glue that they use. It's probably some specialist bookbinding glue. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. Just as a slight disclaimer at this point, I will say that I'm not a bookbinder. There may be other ways of doing this, but this is the way that I do it. So if there's any bookbinders out there holding the head in their hands, I apologise now. That one's quite firmly glued in that side. I'll just get through that. And there we go, that's the entire block of signatures with the brown paper and the glue and the webbing holding it all together. We can put that to one side for use in different ways later. And then we're left with the two covers and the spine. As you'll see, that's just very loose and floppy. And if you try to sew anything to that, it just won't take it. What I'm going to do now is just clean up these edges. You can see where there's just a bit of the tape and a bit of the glue has come off. And to do that, I'm going to use our rotary cutters. I'm just going to fold that one back on itself. So let's take in the front one, bow it down behind there, getting a ruler and a rotary cutter. And I'm just going to put that right on the very edge of there, taking care not to cut into the spine or the book cover, and just trim off all those excess bits and pieces that we don't need, and give us a much neater finish. The other side's neater already, but we'll do it anyway. Just make sure any excess bits are sticking out that we can chop off. There we go. Has anybody joined us?
Yeah, I do. I'm just doing some housework.
She's doing some housework. By housework, she means answering messages, not actual housework. Just thought I'd clarify that. So there we go. That's just neatened that up a bit. Just got rid of any loose bits. Oh, quite neat. And what we need to do at this point, then, we need to consider about strengthening that spine. Because it isn't, as you can see there, it flexes, it's just not strong enough. And because we take the signatures out, it's lost all its rigidity. Now at this point we need to consider there's two ways we can do it. We can either stick some thick card into there and then cover it with some material. But if we're going to sew the signatures in, we need to consider whether we're going to sew them through to the back. so that they actually show on the outside. If we're going to do that, then obviously we can't use too thick a card because we'd never get the needle through it. If we're not going to do it so that it shows on the outside, then we can use thicker card, because what you would do is sew the signatures to a thinner bit of card and then glue that back into the spine, so that the sewing doesn't show on the outside. It depends whether you want to preserve the outside of the book or whether you're going to cover it up afterwards anyway. I shall do it as if we were going to sew through it. So I have a couple of options for card. You can use sort of grey board, which is traditionally what they make the covers of the books out of. This isn't true grey card, even though it is grey and it's card.
Roll call.
Sorry?
Want a roll call?
Yes, give me a roll call.
Okay, from the top. Hilda.
Hi, Hilda.
Lynn.
Hi, Lynn.
Jean.
Hi, Jean.
Joseph Cinderella.
Hi, Joe.
Cindy Phillips.
Hi, Cindy.
Roz.
Hi, Roz.
Leslie.
Carrie. Helen.
Pat.
Max.
Shaz. Louine Cook,
is that a new one?
well, we've all welcomed her from Lincolnshire.
Aye.
And Joseph's got his skirt on now. He's now Flo.
Hi, Flo.
And I think that is your lot. Donna.
Oh, Donna.
Carol Beading. That's it.
Hi, Carol Beading. That's it. Yes.
Nathania's just popped up.
Oh, Nathania as well. Yes, just as I say there, this is a grey card. It's not actual grey card that they make the book covers out of, but it's 750 grams per square metre. It's some card that I got from an auction a long time ago. I've got several.
The other one's the Royal Wave.
I got it from an auction a long time ago, and I could use that, but it is probably slightly thick to get the needle through. It would be too much of a push. So what we're going to do is go Blue Peter on it and use an old cat food box. They have a nice kind of rigidity. They're slightly thicker, I would say, than cereal boxes, so it makes them ideal for this purpose. So what we need to do is to make a piece that's going to fit and cover up that spine. So we'll do that first. We shall open it up. This one's chicken and duck, but I don't think the variety matters that much. If you haven't got a cat, then I'm sure that any other box will do. I'm going to use some scissors. These are Friska's paper scissors. Thank you very much, Hilda. There we go. We'll use. I would normally use the spine because that'd be big enough, but it's got a bit of a crease in where I think the cat sat on it. So we'll just remove one side. This is the same cardboard that we use to make journal covers that we can cover with fabric or paper or whatever. But in this instance, we're just going to strengthen the spine. We know that it's relatively easy to sew through. I think that's aided by the fact because it's a cat food box. It's got almost, I don't know whether you can see on the camera, it's got almost sort of a waxy finish, I guess, to stop the cat food tainting. And I think that helps with the sewing process, because I think it's probably just some sort of waxy type coating, but that's just my opinion. I could be making that up, as I make many a thing up. Speaking of which, I'd just like to share a secret with you. Miss P's not listening. I'd like to come out and say that I'm ambidextrous too.
Two ambidextrous people in one house.
I know, that's handy.
How does that work?
Is this one big enough. I do believe so. So let's make a measurement of this. We want to come up with this bit just to the bit, move it there. You can just see where it folds over. It's just got that folded over bit. We just need to come up to there. So we need to measure that first. And on this particular one, it is, I would say, 9 1/8 if I wanted to be pedantic, which of course we are. So I'll just write that on the card before I forget. Let me just get a pen that's going to write on there. Maybe this softer pencil might do. 9 1/8 by. Now this is a slightly more critical measurement. When you're making spines for books, obviously when it folds in, you need to allow room for these sides to fold into that. If you filled that in solidly with a piece of card, it would have no room to fold. It needs some breathing space. So what you need to do is make it slightly narrow, about 1/8 of an inch in a book this size, and that just allows those covers to fold in without catching on the spine. If you made it to fit exactly as I say, you wouldn't be able to close it very easily. The bit that we're going to leave is called a French groove, if you want to impress people, but it's just a bit of a gap. So we'll measure that across, and that's exactly 2 inches. So we need to leave 1/8 each side, so I make that 1 3/4 inch. 3/4. That looks like 1/8, but it looks 3/4. So we can now cut that to size using our very useful quilting rulers. I shall just, what shall I do? I'll square up one side first, I think. One side and one bottom. And then we can work from there. Sliding all over the place on that waxy surface. That was a terrible cut. I'll do it on the other side. That proves that there's some sort of coating on there, because that was skittering around like Bambi on ice. There we go, that's better. So now we've got one straight edge. So now we can get our ruler, come off that at 9. What did I say it was? Now on the other side, 9 1/8.
You need a different ruler.
This goes up to 9 1/2.
Is it? I thought it was 8 1/2.
No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 1/2. There we go. So we'll go up that side, square that off. So now we've got 2 straight sides. We'll go across the top there. So now we've got 2 straight sides, 3 straight sides, and that's 9 1/8. And then we just need to take off 1 3/4.
Bad practice using that rotary cutter towards you, can I just say?
Yeah, you can say that.
Bad practice.
And then people wonder why I don't do too many lives. There we go. Hopefully that's still engined. Yeah, that's perfect. So hopefully that should fit into that spine. Let's bring that back. You can see that it fits almost to the top, almost to the bottom, and it's got a French groove either side of 1/8 of an inch. We shall stick that down next, and you can either eyeball it to make sure it's either side, or I actually have some which I stole from the sewing room, some quilting guides, and they're basically just strips of plastic that come in various sizes: 1/2 inch, 3/8, quarter, and 1/8. And I could just use that just to pop into one side, and then I'd know that I'd be nice and square. So what we're going to do is stick that in first, and for this I shall use Aleen's. And if you want to know the difference between Mr. F crafting and Mr. F crafting, this is, where am I? There we go. That's Miss P's Aleen glue, nice delicate bottle with a nice small nozzle. And this is Mr. F's Aleen glue, which is a gallon. Nice gallon size. If you're gonna go gluing big, I say. So obviously you could use any glue for this, whatever is your favourite, 3-in-1, Fabri-Tac, anything you like really. It's just I happen to have this large gallon pot that if I don't use it for this, I'm not sure what I'd use it for. So I'm just going to dip my brush in there, get a nice bit of Aleen's on there, coat that. A nice good coat. And stick that in. And I'm just going to eyeball it because we've already checked to make sure it's the right size, so we're happy with that.
Ross says, oh, man-size glue.
Man-size glue, exactly that. And I've got a little brayer, so I can just stick that down, make sure it's nice and flat. And what I normally do at this point is leave that go away, let it dry, come back after I've had a coffee, watch some sport and drag it out for about a day and a half. But in this instance I shall just flatten it down and we'll carry on assuming that it's...
If you didn't have a brayer, could you just like put books on it or something?
Yeah, the best thing to do is I've got some sort of thin slats of wood, which is, because we're generally using this size of book, we know that it's a 2-inch spine. So I've got some pieces of wood which are about 1 3/4 that I put on top of that, put some books on top and just leave it to dry nice and flat.
I know, but if you didn't have a brayer and you didn't have a bit of wood the right size, what can you use?
You could build that up. You see, this bit of cardboard, whether you can see that, is slightly thinner than the actual grey board that's made the covers out of. So you could put books on, but none of the weight would actually be on that. So what you really need to do is to build that up, perhaps with another bit of cat box or whatever. You might need 2 or 3 pieces of cat box just to build that up to at least the same height as that, and preferably slightly bigger, and then pop your books on and you'll be fine.
Thank you.
Obviously you can use, we have various clips and various sizes of clips that we could weigh that down, but for the purposes of this live we'll say that that's probably dry and good to go. So all we've done there really is we've strengthened that spine, so now you can see that it doesn't bend, it doesn't bow, but what we haven't addressed is the floppiness of the hinges, the folding parts of the spine. So what we need to do with that is to cover that with some fabric. Now, depending on what you're doing on the outside of the book, you could cover it in fabric and take it over the top into the back, or you can do it just so that it's just over the cardboard and stops short of the top, which is probably what we'll do on this occasion, I think. Now there's sort of material you can use. We've used cotton, quilting cotton, canvas. I've done them in leather, done them in canvas, and I've also...
Jean says she loves this live.
That's good. I've used leather just because I have some leather in the past, but I also use this, which is it's like a suede type material. But the important thing about all these things is they don't have much give. You know, it's no good using something with a loose weave. Jeans, yeah, denim would be fine. Just something that hasn't got a lot of give in either direction. Canvas, perfect. Because none of those, as I say, have much give, because you don't want it. If you've got a loose weave, you're going to get lots of glue through it, but it also can move. And also, if you're trying to avoid fabrics that fray too much, because otherwise you're going to have to start turning all the ends in to make sure it doesn't fray. This particular one doesn't fray, and it's got zero give, so it's perfect for the job. So again, what we need to do again is, we know that's 2 inches. We're going to put an overlap of, I suppose, 1/2 inch is probably sufficient. Yep. So 2 inches, 1/2 inch overlap, make it 3 inches. And we know we cut that to 9 1/8, so we'll probably cut that to 9 1/4, so it should just overlap the end without overlapping the end of the book. So we have, that looks like a relatively straight edge there, which would be a bonus if it was. Well, not really. So we'll straighten that up. We'll use, that looks like a salvage that side, so that's probably relatively straight, which it is. So we'll use that just to straighten up that top edge. Excuse my head if it's on the camera. This rotary cutter is slightly awkward to use, because whilst we're both ambidextrous, we're actually ambidextrous the other way around. So I use my rotary cutter with the right hand. Miss P uses it with the left, so it's actually set up with a blade for a left-hand cutter, not a right-hand cutter, which makes it slightly more awkward for me to use. I could have brought my own one in, which is outside, which would have made more sense. And once I'm predominantly right-handed, I write right-handed, I use the rotary cutter right-handed, I use scissors with me left. Cut that off at 9 1/2 for now, even though that's slightly bigger than we want. And then we've got 3 square edges, straight edges, should I say. So we need to find the one there. What did I say it was? 3 inches we wanted, didn't we? 3 inches approximately. Doesn't have to be exactly. And yeah, I'll chop the end off after.
Every time I see you do this, I think you're doing it the wrong way, and it's because it's the opposite way to do it.
Yeah, I know, it's right awkward using that cutter, because when I do it with the right hand, of course, the blade's on the back.
Outside, is it?
Yeah, the blade's on the back of the cutter rather than on this side where you can see it. So it's.
Why don't you go get it?
I could do that, but I think I've pretty much done my cutting now.
Okay.
I've got one last cut to do, which is going to cut that at. Look at that, that's about as straight as a donkey's.
Donkey's hind leg.
Yeah. That's because you can't see you wandering off when it's on the wrong way around. Right, so now we need to cut that down to get the one on the right place. We need to put that at 9 1/4. Right, now hopefully that should bring that book back in. That should just cover that cardboard and also overlap onto the book. So now we need to glue that down. what we shall do, I think, is get a pencil and just...
Hope you're not just throwing those scrap bits on the floor.
How could you tell? Would be my answer to that. I've watched enough lives to know that that qualifies as a waste bin. Saying nout. So yeah, I've just eyeballed that just so I can get a rough idea of where to put that down. So this is kind of a 3-part process, really. We don't just want to glue that down, because if you just glue it straight down, then when you come to fold it, it doesn't follow the contours of the spine. And I'll explain more as we go on. We'll just get a big glob of glue out me big pot. And first off, we're going to just put some glue on the cardboard that we've put on there. Just going to spread that across just on the cardboard. And then we're going to line that up and just need to put some over the end, don't we?
Can I just say at this stage that whatever you choose to use is probably going to be what you're going to see when you've sewn your signatures in. So choose something that you want to see.
Yeah. Miss P was just saying there that obviously you're going to see this once you've made the book. So if you want to use whatever material or wherever you want to see on top first, that's great. If, however, you want to cover the entire book in fabric or whatever, then obviously you need to cover that. You need to glue that on, then cover it with your fabric before you sew the signatures in. Once you've sewn your signatures in, it's very hard to put anything into this space. So you need to make sure that you've finished and it's as tidy and what you see is what you want at the end before you start thinking about sewing anything in. So we'll just put a bit of glue at the top on the ends there. So what we're going to do first is to put that on. Just so it just comes over the end of the cardboard. As I say, you could take this over the top if you, depending on what finish you want on the outside of the book. So what we've done is we've done that and we've glued that down now. Again, I would normally wait for this to dry properly, but I'm just going to braid that down and we could say that that's now, and you'll see that these bits here are still loose. Because what we need to do now is to get some more glue out of my massive big pot and fold that back and put it into the groove, into our French groove. That's the next step. Gluing it into the French groove. We'll do both sides. Whereas this is probably maybe slightly basic for a lot of you. But for beginners, it's something that we need to cover. Particularly if it's your first time repurposing a book. I don't know what she's done with a bone folder. I'll use this. She's got a wooden one. She's obviously hidden the best one. I know. And then what we need to do is to force that into that groove. And what that's doing, it's creating a similar groove with the fabric as is in the book. So that when it folds, that fabric has got somewhere to go. If we don't give it that room to fold and go in, when you fold the book up, it'll bubble out. It'll burst out from the page. I mean, to be honest, I could have been slightly more generous with the material and bought that, because you could take it all the way to the ends of the book if you wanted. Because that was the bit of fabric I picked up, I couldn't really go much wider. But so that's it. Just work that into that groove. Obviously, normally I'd be waiting for this to dry, and I'd make sure that everything was dry before I started doing this. But obviously, for the purposes of the live, we just have to carry on as if it were. So that's the second part. The first part is to glue it down onto the spine cardboard, then to glue it into the grooves, and lastly glue the remaining flappage down on the book. Obviously, the reason I put the line on is that I can see roughly where I need to put the glue. Obviously, I've got a bit of excess there, got carried away, but we can soon wipe that off. And obviously, if we'd wait it for dry, then obviously the material would be stuck into the French groove. It wouldn't be coming out. But there's nothing to worry about at this point. There we go. That's that glued down onto there. We'll reinstate them grooves because we've done a bit of pulling on it. Because we haven't really allowed it time to dry properly. And that's effectively, just get a bit of tissue and just get rid of the excess glue. Got carried away with me big brush and me big pot. There we go. And what I would do now is to take that away, put some acetate over so nothing sticks to it, and then put some weights on and just leave that to dry. As you can see, it's sort of covered up now, and these boards are solidly attached to the stiffened spine, so that when we come to sew our signatures in through this spine, it's nice and solid. It's not going to move. The weight of the signatures is not going to pull it apart, and that's pretty much it, really.
Would you recommend wider bits at the side, or is that fine?
That's fine, but it depends what you want. I just use that because that's pretty much the width of the bit of fabric I brought down from upstairs. I would probably go an inch either side. Wouldn't make it easy in the ideal world, but as I say, you could actually bring that all the way over to cover the inside of the book in its entirety. You could also take it over the top if you're going to cover the outside. But that's basically it, really. That's that signature's removed, the spine's been stiffened, and we've put the fabric on to tie all the three parts together. Now if you just sew signatures in there, 1, 2 or 3 or 4, then it would be nice and solid and you wouldn't have any problems. Obviously it's best if you let each section dry as you're doing it. If you let the center section dry, then when you force it into the French groove, it won't pull the middle bit. And then if you let the grooves dry, when you fold over the bits to the cover boards, it won't pull it out of the groove. Because obviously we haven't really let it dry, and obviously if we push it back into the grooves totally, it starts lifting the sides. But I'm sure you'll understand that if you wait for it to dry properly, then you'll have no issues at all. I think that's probably a bit covered, isn't it, for the...
Yeah. Brilliant.
Hopefully that should help our member that had a slight problem with the spine of the book. If anybody's got any questions, that would be lovely.
Everybody's praising you and saying it looks very neat, and in fact looks very professional. And then Jean said, actually Mr. F and Miss P are professionals. Blimey.
Blimey. I've been called many a thing, Jean. But not often that, thank you.
Question from Lynn.
Yes.
When I'm sewing my signatures in, the hole in the page gets bigger, almost making the hole bigger. Well, we discovered that as well, didn't we? We usually... when we've made signatures before, I mean, a lot of you that watch many alive will know this. We have a little pokey tool, which is actually one of my little round files. But it does get quite thick, even though it doesn't look it. It does thicken up the taper
It's got a taper on it, but it does open up quite big.
If you look in my sewing drawer.
And if you poke that in, it does make quite a big hole. If what we do now is we've got a couple of sewing packs there. One of those with my initials on. Isn't that lovely? We've got some larger needles.
The one that I use should be there with the padding on it. Yeah.
And that one. Use one of these big sort of darning needles, I suppose it would be. And that's got a much sharper point and quite a longer taper on it. So we use that to poke through.
Yeah, so you put masking tape on it because it's too hard otherwise.
Yeah. Now, because it's a needle and it's even the end with the eye in it can be quite sharp. So what I normally do is I get some masking tape, just start it off on there, roll it around in my fingers, and create what?
The masking tape one. It's there in the book.
In the book, is it? Oh yeah, there we go. Look, there's the one. Here's me explaining on that one, and we actually got one there. I've got just built it up, rolled masking tape round and round and round, and then just put a little bit of electrician's insulation tape on it, just hold it in place, and that means you can grip it firmly without poking it into your finger.
And always push it into something soft.
Yeah.
Otherwise it comes too big.
Indeed. So there we've got a very sharp needle with very long taper on it that doesn't create any bigger hole than you're going to be creating by sewing. So whilst we used to use that, we now use that which is thinner and the right size for what we're going to sew. So we use that needle with the crochet cotton on it for the sewing, and we use that one which is the same size that's got a bit built on to stop you poking your fingers off. So if we poke the hole with that, it fits that needle and we don't have an issue with it growing. Now another problem can be when you're poking holes through the spine or your signatures, you need to have something beneath it. This is a bit of yoga mat. It's just sort of quite dense foam, and if you put that underneath, then when you put your thing on top and poke through, A, you won't damage your cutting board, and B, it won't allow you to go too deep, because really you only just want to get that first bit of the needle through the paper. You don't want to be going all the way through, because if you're going too far through, there's a tendency for it to wiggle, and every wiggle makes the hole bigger. So always have a little bit of foam or something underneath when you're poking through. A, it gives you a firmer surface to push against, but it does also stop you going too far through. Is that answered that question?
Connie's joined us.
Hi, Gonnie.
Yeah, that was good. Thank you. Any more questions?
Any more? As I say, decided to do this live because one of our members had a slight problem with the spine on a book. Hopefully that will assist her to redo the spine and to sew in the signatures without any disasters. I was going to do some more digital work, looking at putting images within shapes, putting text onto our digital pages, and altering the text so we can manipulate the text on those digital pages, and some other little tips and tricks. So I'll do that possibly early next week, maybe Tuesday, something like that. If you want to join me for that, that'd be marvellous. I think we'll leave that to dry. There's nothing much more we can do with that. For those of you that do lap books and whatever, you'll know that is the first step of making a lap book. There is also a video on YouTube about making a lap book. Basically, all you do is exactly what we've done there, and then you add another two cover boards on the outside so that it folds in and folds in again. So we'll put that to one side. The only other thing I can share with you today, just to fill in the time, not that we need the time filling in, but we shall do it anyway, is some of the things that I picked up recently at car boots and other places. There's not many. I'll just show you one or two. I don't want to bore you too much. What have we got? Ooh. I found this the other day. Excuse me while I rummage. Which is a nice big pack of goodness. I found this at the car boot on Wednesday. It was a nice sunny day. I got there early. And this all came as one pack. I think it was originally a kit that somebody bought. I think they said that they bought it whilst they were on holiday in New Zealand. And they attended a sort of a one-day course, brought the pack of stuff because they thought they'd really do it and never got around to it. So luckily it's fallen into my possession. I say briefly fallen into my possession because obviously Miss P had it away, and all these things came as one pack. There's some quick dry adhesive. It's basically a pack to make a, well, it's described as a scrapbook or a memory book. These are all...
Can you describe what a car boot is, please?
A car boot. It's basically where everybody puts all the things in their house that they want to get rid of. They've had a spring clean, they're having a clear out. Very much like a garage sale, I suppose. Except they fill the car boot full of all the things that they would have had in a garage sale. Everybody turns up in a field on a specific day and a specific time, and then people go around and wander whither and nither and see what everybody's got and buys things that people want to get rid of. These are all Prima marketing papers. It doesn't mean much to me, but I've been told that they're relatively expensive papers. There's a 12 by 12 sheet, tea time collection, and on the back is that. There's another one there. That one's tea time collection, Marcella. More papers, lovely papers, lovely quality. I can see why they might be relatively expensive. They obviously sell them individually, so they must be expensive, I guess, because they're not in a 12 by 12 book. There's another piece which I think is like paper canvas texture. Another one there. Tea time collection charmeuse. Another piece of the paper. Some corrugated cardboard. These are, never come across these before, they are resist canvas, and the shapes cut out of canvas, and I don't know whether you'll even pick it up on the thing, but on them is some sort of designs that you can barely make out. I'm not even sure you'll be able to do it on the camera. And I think you stain them with inks, and the design is a resist, so you end up with that sort of pattern. That's what it starts out like, and then if you do it the brown colours, that's what it comes out like, and it gives you the designs. There's something different. There's some 6x6 papers as well. Again, Prima ones, I presume. And this is also Prima Marketing. Say It in Crystals, 18 pieces. Nice bit of bling. Some decorative wood embellishments, which has got clocks and little sayings. Cherish every moment. Wonderful. That sort of thing. They're sort of wood, MDF, I presume. There's some doilies. This would have been a very nice kit for somebody, I feel. There's a little page there. What happened to Jack?
Nice kit for me.
Indeed. A page out of some old book. There's some more Premium Marketing, some nice flowers, which are really up Miss P's. Some more flowers there. What's this? This is canvas refill pages, and they're like well, canvas pages really, with the 2 holes like you would use in a ring binder. 4x6 active area. I guess you just glue things to them and embellish them.
Perry says you find some gobsmacking items.
I know, this is all one lot. And there for Hilda is what gauze normally looks like when you buy it.
Poor Hilda. She never could understand.
There's some more Prima flowers there, some pink ones. There's some loose flowers with some glitter on them. They've all burst out of this pack. So a nice big bag of flowers there. There's a piece of ribbon, which always comes in useful.
That's seam binding.
Oh, seam binding, is it?
Yeah.
Ah, well there you go, that's seam binding.
Hug snug.
That's presumably what they had on the top of their spine, you know, when I cut the signatures out.
Yeah.
It would be something like that,
Yeah.
I guess.
Hug snug seam binding.
Hug snug seam binding, apparently, I've been told by the voice from afar. What else did we get in that pack? There's some tiny alphabet stickers, 695 pieces of various alphabets. Well, I suppose only one alphabet, various fonts, uppercase and lowercase, so that's very nice. And this is a art stitched mulberries speciality paper.
Look at the sequins at the bottom of it.
Yeah, it's a mulberry paper that's been sewn into, and it's got some sequined trim on the bottom of it. And you go on the back, you can see the sewing coming through to the back. And what is this? Oh, some shabby chic treasures resin, which is like a frame. Very nice, I would imagine, if you're decorating a box. So all that came in one package from one kind lady at the car boot. So that was probably the find of the day, I would say. Put all that back in its box, keep it all together. Sometimes you do just get lucky at these things, whether it's what do they call them, garage sales and swap meets, is it, or something? Yard sales, that's it. Yard sales and swap meets and that sort of thing. So that was very nice on Wednesday. I also got these 2 little things, which are border punches. That one's sort of, I don't know what we cable stitch, maybe, I suppose. And that one's probably egg and dart type border. So they were very nice. They were £1.50 each, those were.
Jean wants to know what's the brand of the sewn papers.
The sewn papers, I shall have to get it back out again, but I'm presuming it's the same Prima, do you think?
Possibly, I've never seen it before.
No, I've never seen it before. It's a new one on me. Let's have another look. There we go. It's don't know. It says where memories are created. It's not for telling me. Oh yeah, no, there it is. Prima marketing. It's a Prima product.
That, don't they?
They do. This is not a toy. Keep out of reach of children.
I'll have that.
Too late. Too late. I've got it. What else did we get? Oh, we got this, which is very nice. It's a tie. Obviously, I'm not going to wear it as a tie. I've given up wearing ties. They're kinds of weddings and funerals, I suppose. But it's a very nice design. It's autumn leaves. As some of you will probably know, Miss P is making a journal at the moment based around a year, basically divided into the 4 seasons. So when she comes to autumn, we have some very nice fabric to use on that. It actually is an American one. It says Creative American Design, Stanford, Connecticut, Allen Knitwear, Autumn Leaves. So it is what it says on the tin.
Nice.
So I got that purely for its colour and its pattern, rather than as a piece of neckwear. I also got this, which is... Oh, I got myself a nice dress. Actually, that's not really for me. It's too small. That's the only reason. It says medium large, but it must be it would be a very small large. I guess it's probably a size 4 or something like that, 6. But the reason that I got it really is because of the fabric. As you can see there, it's all made up of embroidered stars. So obviously you could cut each one of those out and they'd make very fine embellishments, as well as the scalloped edge trim on the bottom. I got that, and it was, I think, £4, I think. But you know, the entire thing is just embroidered star patterns.
Brilliant.
Each that, if you individually cut out, would make very fine embellishments. It's got a slightly gold thread through it, which you may not pick up on the camera. So that was very nice. And the last thing that I got was a book. As you know, I'm a regular buyer of books. This one is called The Floral Birthday Book. And what it is basically is it's kind of every day of the year. It's got its own flower and tells you what it stands for, and some little poem. There's one there by Shelley, Shakespeare, Longfellow, Adelaide Proctor. So if anybody's got a particular birthday they'd like to read out, I shall tell you what the flower is.
24th of March.
24th of March. Funnily, you were in fastest there. I wonder why that would be. The 24th of March, there it is Wild Violet, Love in Idleness.
In idleness.
Yeah.
Well, I'm idle.
Shakespeare. You marketh when the bolt of Cupid fell, it fell upon a little western flower. Before milk white, now purple with love's wound, and maidens call it love in idleness.
Yeah, well, I'm idle, so that's fine.
So
June the 26th.
I love being idle. June the 26th.
Yeah. So June.
Is Rose Monday, and it says it's by Moore. Ask what prevailing pleasing power allures the sportive wandering bee to roam untired from flower to flower. He'll tell you 'tis variety. Look nature round her features trace, her seasons all changes see, and own upon creation's face the greatest charms variety.
Hang on, wait a minute, where are we? 10th of April.
10th of April. This could be turned into quite a long live. 10th of April is Globe Ranunculus. I'm dazzled by your charms.
We don't need the poem.
I don't blame you.
January the 7th is Shaz and Helen.
Excellent. That's what I like.
So we're doing double trouble.
Double teaming. That is the ice plant.
Ooh.
Rejected addresses.
Oh dear.
You've got a bit of Shakespeare.
13th of May.
13th of May is the lilac. First emotions of love.
Oh, gorgeous. Look at those big plates that are in the...
At the beginning of the month.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's the one for May, We have red campion, green airstreak, wallflower, daisy, pansy, sea campion, herb robert, and hawthorn, and pine.
November the 19th, last one.
November the 19th is a Shasta daisy, beauty.
Fair enough. That's you, Carrie. Beauty. Oh no, we've got Roz. 13th of October.
13th of October. Excellent. That is the wild plum tree.
Whoa!
Independence.
Independence.
And that's a poem by Smollett.
Isn't that book just gorgeous?
As I say, a very nice plate is the beginning of each month. That's the one for April. But what a lovely starting point for a journal. There's a nice September one there. Obviously we're moving into the more autumn colours. The bramble. The tutsan. Never heard of that.
Well, I've got to come up with 365.
It's true. The tourmetil.
3rd of July for Maureen.
3rd of July. Next time I'm going to get a book that's just like months.
Yeah.
3rd of July. Oh, that's a nice one. The sweet pea.
Oh.
Means departure.
Oh, don't depart yet, Maureen.
There we go. So that's a very nice book.
It's a gorgeous book. I'm just hoping it's going to fit in my signatures. Looks quite wide.
It possibly is quite wide. There is a bit of a border around the page, which helps.
Yeah,
But the actual width of the entire book is 7, so it is slightly larger than the royal size.
Yeah.
But the actual plates inside are 6 1/4.
6 1/4.
Mm-hmm.
That's still a bit wide.
But that's from the border that they've drawn.
Right.
If you wanted to go from the start of the wording, shall we say, to the edge, probably about 5
I've got to
1/2.
go from the hinge because it's got to be sewn in.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. Oi, 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 you're right.
So what does it measure?
I can get away. You could probably get away with 6 1/4, and you wouldn't lose any of the flowers.
6 1/4. That's still too big, isn't it?
I don't know. I don't know what size.
A4.
Yeah, which is 11 3/4.
Yeah.
So you're really looking at 5 and.
Oh no, I'm going to have to come up with some device.
Device, indeed. Some fancy ingage.
Yeah.
Anyway, we won't keep these good folk any longer.
Fair enough.
I hope that's clarified some of the issues of making a hinge.
I've forgotten we've been making it.
Yeah, making a hinge. That's dried up a bit now. As you can see, there's still the French groove, which, as you see when you fold it, allows you to fold it without the it bunching up. It's still not fully dry down there, so I won't manipulate it too much. But that groove allows you to fold it, and it folds neatly, shall we say, without any of the fabric rucking up. And because we've only used the sort of cat box weight cardboard, you should be able to puncture that still relatively easy and sew it straight in. As I said before, what you could do, of course, if you got your signatures, you could get some other card, cut it similar size to what we cut it out for the hinge, and actually sew the signatures to that, and then glue that in on top. But again, remember to allow a bit for the French grooves. Don't fill it in with the cardboard that you're going to stick in. Make it pretty much the same size as the cardboard that we've used to stiffen the spine, and you should be fine. And once that's all glued in, dried up, you shouldn't have any issues with the signatures pulling away from the spine or pulling the paper off the boards. I hope that's all right. I think I'm running out of things I can show you, tell you.
That's it.
Until
Thank
next
you.
time,
Thank you.
I shall be back early next week, probably. Don't hold me to that. When we'll perhaps have a look at some, do some more manipulation with our digital pages. And that's about all I can tell you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
For those that haven't already done so, if you'd like to subscribe to the YouTube channel, that would be marvellous. And if you tick on the bell, you'll get a notification every time we're live. You'll get no other notifications, no other emails, no other pestering at all. It'll just let you know when we're coming up live and when we are live. For those that aren't already members, we also have a Facebook group called Miss Paintalot's Junk Journal Group, where all the same people usually hang out. We share things that we've done. People share things that they've done. We also have loads of things going on. We're making a collaborative journal at the moment, which will be probably the next thing that Miss P's tackling. And that's about all I can tell you. So thanks again for joining us, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.
Bye.